This podcast is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and is a production of VI Alliance, copyright 2019. And this chart-busting hit, Alone Leave Me, courtesy of New Threads, is available everywhere.
Hi, this is Susan, and I'm here with Julie, and we're going to continue our talk about The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. So this was an interesting book for us to figure out how we wanted to approach it, because it's actually very detailed. It's probably one of the most detailed books that I've ever read about working really with your subconscious mind. And I could go into the definition as to what science, but I'm going to leave that for you because you're more the science guru here. So,
well, I'm going to interrupt because I'm going to say I completely agree with you, because it's like a how-to manual. And we're not going to sit here and, read, how to operate the television,
right.
Of the manual. This is such a great resource because you can pick it up for any topic related to your thoughts, related to life. And he kind of guides you through not just a meditative state, but the energy of accessing the power of your mind and almost how to, coach it yourself. Which is really cool, because in coaching yourself, it's you doing the work.
Well, if you don't coach it, then you're opening it for someone else to coach it.
Well, you're training your mind. And of course, your mind is there to work with you. And yet, how many of us do that?
Well, again, if you don't, then, one of the things that he talks about in here, I have the little page highlighted, is the power of persuasion. And that so many people, it's funny. We were going to talk about your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, and your conscious mind is clearly, what we feed ourselves. That's how we talk to our conscious, subconscious, whatever. How we talk to ourselves, and our subconscious mind is kind of works behind the scenes. Is the part of your mind. I mean, it's also part that keeps you alive. It keeps your heart beating and your all your different senses within your body to keep you alive, keeps that moving. And, it's funny, I remember saying to one of my kids that, let me start back a little bit when I think about, people talking about witchcraft and talking about witches and, oh my God, this person has this ability and that ability. And, and you and I go to Salem often and we hear... I'm a level 7 witch and I'm a this, and I always kind of laugh because, I always sit there and say, really, if someone convinces you that they have a power that you do not, then they are the top witch. Right. But the truth is that nobody has any power over you unless you hand it to them.
Right.
And so with that said, I always laugh. I say I'm a 10th degree, 50,000th degree witch, because I at least have the awareness of someone's trying to do it. And one time my daughter, we were dealing with the whole college process. There was one place that we walked in, we missed the tour, and the person who just sit behind the desk and had nothing to say about themselves other than I work at this institution, was very quick to say, well, if you do not have a 4.0 and a blah, 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 you will not get into this institution. And my daughter just looked at me and I said, thank you for sharing. And I walked away and I says, are you going to let her decide for you what you know? You know you're going to go where you're supposed to go. But people do that on a consistent basis. And this book is the first book I've seen that, the power of persuasion, and we talk about Donald Trump in some of our other podcasts and a lot of the energy and what he's done. Persuasion is very powerful. And you can sit back and people do it on it almost 24/7.
Right.
If you have awareness of it, it doesn't mean you don't get affected, but at least you have awareness.
Right, and yet not only do people around you do it, but you do it to yourself, because when you say, I'm really tired, your subconscious or unconscious says, oh, okay, we're tired.
Right.
And it proceeds to, give you being tired. And that may sound kind of weird, yet, it's almost like a computer. What you put into the computer and what you're asking for is what you're going to get. And so if you're, consistently professing negativity, that's what you get.
Well, I always go with, no matter what's going on, if someone says, how are you? And I don't mean like the proverbial, hi, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, how are you? It's like, okay, this is stupid. But when someone's generally, if something, you've had a headache or whatever, how you feeling? I'm good. If I tell myself, if I say out loud, I'm good, I tend to feel better.
Right. And guess what? Right, because your subconscious goes, okay, run, I'm good program.
Right.
And so then you're like, oh, okay. And is it that simple? Yes, it's that simple. Because just think about, and don't think about this, but just think about how many things you take as persuasion out there. The weather's going to be horrible. This is going to be everything you consume, and
everywhere you go.
Even we say, so and so made me feel a certain way. Well, it's you doing that,
right? Again,
and it's you. Creating these things to occur from the standpoint of what are you telling yourself? What words are you using? And this book, Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, is a great how-to manual on how to deal with that and how to also be aware of what you can do with your mind and the power of your mind and the power of your subconscious.
So the one thing that I always look for in all these books that we're reading is I'm like, this one little thing. It could be a huge thing, but everything has one little part that's a little bit different. And the part in this book, which to me is so overlooked, and I'm going to quote, is the tendency of the subconscious is life word. So when you get away from what everybody's saying, our subconscious keeps our heart beating. It keeps our blood pressure, depending on what's going on in life, whether it needs to kick in and have an increase up, blood pressure or bring it down, the whole fight or flight, our heart rate, everything is self-sustaining. It's to preserve and to continue and to expand who we are. It is not destructive. So if we're experiencing anything that's destructive, that's something that our conscious mind is telling our subconscious to screw up something.
Right, exactly. And it's that simple. Although, simple is, not really a great term to use. One of the things he says in here as well is, it is not the thing believed in that hurts or harms you, but the belief or thought in your mind that creates the results. All your experiences, all your actions, and all the events and circumstances of your life are but the reflections and reactions to your own thought. And when you think about, reaction, I think, is a really big word, because you're consistently reacting to what people say to you, to the conversations you have, to the temperature, to your energy, to how you feel, to everything. And you're analyzing and reacting. And yet,
And yet movies and TV, you always sit there and say, they're hitting your adrenals.
Right. And when those get hit, there's a domino effect of what occurs with your reactions, what your conscious mind is processing and telling your subconscious to kind of roll out and play within your body and all around you. That's really powerful.
It is. To add to what you said, is when he goes into how to get the results you want. And you're right, like we said, in various parts he goes into much more depth, almost a guide. But basically it's, I'm going to say it and you're going to laugh because I always say the same thing. I hate The Secret. It is the most unempowering. I don't know anybody who reads that and comes and they all feel like they're failures because they didn't do it. Right? You hear everything's great. Why isn't it working for me? I must be a failure. And that's the reason why I really do not like that book, the movie, anything. And the reason is because even like what he says that 90% of your mental life is subconscious. 90%.
90%, yeah.
So, and again, if it's always life word, it's always a proponent of life, of you, then when things are going wrong, it's really what our conscious mind is starting to tell our subconscious mind.
Right. And Go ahead. He says it magnifies anything that we impress upon it. I mean, if you walk around with a magnifying glass and you magnify everything you see, I mean, it makes it bigger and grander. And so if it's magnifying everything we impress upon it, that's good, quote unquote, and bad, quote unquote.
But we know that our senses, which are our conscious mind, are faulty. We know that. We know with our eyes what you think you see. We have a huge optic nerve that goes right down the center, and it blocks out so much of what's actually in front of us. And what happens, our mind fills it in. Right. So we know that we can't always, your tastes are based on certain things, what you hear. We only hear certain things.
Right.
I mean, there's so many problems out there, and I'm not going to go into it, but I have come to realize that our senses are faulty, and they're based so much in our perception. So if we think everything's against us and everything's negative, that it doesn't matter. Your senses are going to project that to you. And so how do you change it? Really, that's really, I think, the biggest thing is how do you change it?
Right.
This book goes into it. And the one thing he says that I think kind of permeates throughout the whole rest of it, and he goes into details, but basically it's called Easy Does It. Where he talks about, do not be concerned, easy does it. Do not be concerned with details and means, but know the end result. Get the feel of the happy solution to your problem, whether it is health, finances, or employment. Remember how you felt after you had recovered from a severe state of illness. Bear in mind that your feeling is the touchstone of all subconscious demonstration. Your new idea must be felt subjectively in a finished state, not the future, but as coming about right now. And this is, to me, the cornerstone of religion. I mean, because it's based in faith. And this is, when I say religion, I don't mean organized religion. I mean, I almost want to say spirituality. I don't want to define it as religion, because then it gets into dogma and it gets into all the BS behind it. But if you cut through all the BS and you just go to the core, and I'm not going to go into it because he reflects upon it he talks about in ancient texts too. He uses the Bible, and you get to the point where you have to have complete faith. Sometimes I sit down and I think about things in my life. I have no idea how the heck, but I have faith.
Right.
And I trust and I know. And that's the part that a lot of, quote, fixers have a hard time with, because you got to fix it.
Right.
And if you don't know how to fix it, well, it can't happen then.
Right. And it's funny from the standpoint of thinking of the subconscious mind as kind of that assistant there that kind of constantly says to you, let me help you with that. Let me help you with that. And so it depends on what you're saying to yourself, like, oh, I need some money. Let me help you with that.
I have no money.
Right.
I have no money. Let me help you with
exactly.
that. That's a big bill.
Right. Let me help you. Exactly.
Or I'm lonely. I'm so lonely. Oh, well, we'll help you with that one.
It's funny because you said before about the optic nerve. Really, its existence and the power of it and the access that you have to it. I mean, hello, we all have access to our own. I mean, why wouldn't we? It's right there. Yet what are we doing with our words? And you said before about the subconscious and, it's kind of life-fulfilling. And the power of it. And I think he also says this is really stated nicely. Your subconscious has a life of its own that is always moving toward harmony, health, and peace. This is the divine norm within it, seeking expression through you at all times. That's immense power. And, I keep on saying power for lack of, a better word, because it's a connection and it's also assistance.
Can I say one thing? You said that, the power to affect our subconscious mind and the power of persuasion. We are the only ones that affect our subconscious.
Right.
You can suggest something to me,
right,
but whether I believe it or not is my choice, and that's when my subconscious gets affected.
Right.
You could tell me, and he gives an example in here when he talks about, someone say, geez, you don't look good. You look like you're almost like you're seasick. And he says in here, well, a sailor would laugh at that. Oh, that's funny. Because what would his perception, a sailor, male, female, his or her perception would be, oh, yeah, right, I sail in the sea. That's not good. Versus someone else who, oh my God, I get seasick all the time.
Right.
What happens now, it goes into the subconscious. So it's funny because you talk about power, and this is what I think is really important, is we are the only ones that affect our subconscious.
Right.
I can only affect mine. You can't affect mine.
Right.
I can't affect yours. I can suggest something, and you can say yes or no, but only you can affect your subconscious. No one else has that power unless we say, oh, I'm going to agree with them.
Right. And we allow that to
Exactly.
occur. Right. And I think towards the end of the book, he talks about how much do you want, what you want.
Uh-huh.
And I think it aligns a lot with what you were talking about, spirituality and faith. And he basically, you know, I don't want to re-say his words because his words are great and they're laced and very, again, powerful. He says, once you learn the habit of identifying your thoughts immediately with your aim in life, you cease to become upset by people, conditions, news, and events. Your aim is peace, health, inspiration, harmony, and abundance. Feel a river of peace flowing through you now. Your thought is the immaterial and invisible power, and you choose to let it bless, inspire, and give you peace.
That is beautiful.
And I think at times you can come to that point where, okay, all these things are occurring around me, yet where he takes you with that statement there kind of brings you right back to the space of, you know, you guiding and influencing yourself and improving yourself in that way. And
that becomes a solemn aim, how you do that. And I think, you know, I'm going to go to something that because I looked at, and it's talking about money. And we always hear money is the root of all evil, and money's destroyed families, and money's destroyed all these things, and the fight for money. I think, which is a big thing for a lot of people, they've been brainwashed. And that's the only word we can use is brainwashed. You know, the subconscious has been told money is bad. Therefore, you would repel money. And you may not even have that notion or that understanding. And I'm not saying that's everybody's problem out there, and because I'm not making that statement, except that when you think about something that you believe that you lack, you really need to go to the core of why would you think that. Like, I'm just going to use money because it's a simple thing. And one of the things he says, quote, how the scientific thinker looks at money. Suppose, for example, you found gold, silver, lead, copper, or iron in the ground. Would you pronounce these things evil? I mean, all evil comes from man's darkened understanding, from his ignorance, from his false interpretation of life, and from his misuse of his subconscious mind. Which really does lead to the fact that there is nothing evil out there. We've said this again in the book. There's no good energy or bad energy. It's just energy. Energy is just energy. It's what happens when you access it, what you create of it. I mean, you and I think alike in many ways. So we have our arguments as people who's listened to our podcasts. But we can both, me or you and someone else can see the same thing and both see, that's when everyone jokes about, is the glass half full, is it half empty?
right.
I mean, that's a simple example, but anything. So many things that have been interpreted one way by a certain group of people can be completely interpreted a very different way by a different group of people. And it really has a lot to do with what you bring to it and how you see things.
Then also, of course, what you tell yourself and how you interpret what you tell yourself and what you're very suggestive of to yourself and what others direct towards you. I think towards the end also of this book, he mentions that, the conscious mind is so affected by the subconscious, and that the subconscious can inspire it to kind of fight against all odds. And it's not fighting, but it's actually being more alert and alive and aware, irregardless of, whether it be age or money or love or relationships or, all these things are surmountable, not insurmountable.
Yeah.
They're, surmountable, things to access what it is that you truly want and truly desire by what you have in your thoughts and what you're saying to yourself, and how your subconscious or your unconscious mind is creating that to occur, because you're giving the instruction through your conscious aptitude of what you're agreeing to and what you're not agreeing to. And there's an immensity of work that you want to do to achieve, to be aware of that. But also, even if I just read something earlier today where somebody I was on LinkedIn, someone on LinkedIn said, I learned from somebody that was helping them with their words that I don't say the word try, because try institutes some condition within. He didn't go on and on about it, but it was implied that it institutes some condition in his subconscious that says, okay, I'm just trying. And I mean, it's funny because that's, I think, one of the
that's
lines in Star Wars. It's one of the lines. I think Yoda says, not, do, don't try, whatever you do. And it's interesting because just the simplicity of, that verb, do or try, is powerful in the sense of, what reaction and how your subconscious is going to play it out and what it's going to create.
So what I think is cool about that is he was able to figure out that trigger. Maybe he had that awareness that changing that was going to change and that to me is the real work of life, is to figure out, because we're all different,
right,
and we help each other. Yet I think that is the coolest part. That's the work I believe is what are my triggers? What are the things that I'm telling myself that I need to have a better awareness of? Or if someone triggers me,
right,
like you said, through my reaction, and it's my reaction. Like, why would I react a certain way? And that would, of course, if we listen to what he says, is that your reaction, which is really the feeling, which is bringing the feeling into the now, is projecting what's going to occur.
Right.
So by checking in with the feelings and the reactions, and of course, if you have the awareness as to why it's affecting you, then, geez, you're doing a good job.
Right.
Doing a good job.
Right. And just, the immensity of the power that you have by just your thoughts and your words and what you're telling yourself and what you're allowing other people to, and you're allowing as suggestions, for yourself. And why would you do that?
The other thing I think that I found in this book too is he talks about your subconscious and the wonders of sleep. And a lot of things, it's actually, because you think of your subconscious, it's more of a conversation. So one part of the book is how you talk to your subconscious, what you feed it. And then he does, and again he uses the power of sleep as to how you hear back from it.
Right.
We talked about in another podcast about where did the information come from. We were talking about writers from the 50s.
Right.
And you said in the earlier podcast, like, where did that come from? The information that they came, because, of course I went to, where'd they go? All these people that had this information, and you go to where'd they get it?
Right.
So he talks about the two sides of conversation. We spent the beginning part of this talking about how you talk to your subconscious, how you plant the seeds. And again, he uses sleep, talking about your dreams, talking about the answers that you get, which is how your subconscious can talk back to you.
Right.
Which, of course, when you have a certain thing that occurs, that's how it's talking to you as well. But some ways that you can kind of work with it to figure out things. And he uses sleep, for example, as one.
And why wouldn't you want to listen to it? It's the one that carries out everything and then that helps you move forward, or, with whatever it is you're saying and whatever your thoughts are. And, an important part about this is, I've said a number of times that this is a great how-to manual. And it gives you so many aspects of life. And he gives very detailed explanations of, what to tell yourself, what to repeat to yourself. Yep. And that's, all in the immensity of this book. And it's a great how-to manual to work with your subconscious mind. And then I would say, so then where do you go from there?
Well, I'm going to go somewhere different before I answer that, because I know what you're asking. I'm going to say something about our book, the book we wrote, Energetic Invocations, a book of vibrational change. It was painstaking for us to work through that, but going through that helped us to clear some old thoughts and old beliefs and kind of help pull us out of the fray of everybody else.
Right.
And I've said to you, it's interesting because reading this book now, I have a huge appreciation, because once you clear, you do all the work of clearing, well, then it's like you said, okay, now I've got all this free farmland.
Right.
How do you not plant the same old seeds of what you did? This is how you do it.
Right.
So our book, it helped us.
Right. Yep.
And then we did this, and then of course, I'll let you answer your own question, where you would go after.
Well, in adding to what you said, in our book, I mean, we look at self, journey, people, environment, and world. He looks, in this book, Joseph Murphy looks at all the different aspects you could think of that occur in your existence, whether it be love, relationships, career, sickness, health, what your goals are, desires, money, all that stuff. And, there's still energy in all of that. And there's still places to propel. And once, like you said, with our book, once you clear all of that and you utilize, these mechanisms that he suggests and that he offers, and also, the process that we state that worked for us. That's,
right.
Not personal at all. It's just, a high octane process. And the other book, the series,
volume 1 through 17, it's a series, and we go in and give more examples because it's really high energy, and sometimes you need that. All right, I need a break, and because we just keep going, we just boom, boom, boom.
Right.
But clearing it helps to open this up.
Yes, and so then you're kind of sitting there and thinking where to go, and we have our other podcasts on the Kabbalion where it's just pure energy and what occurs with energy, and there's still further to go than that. And that's, where we're heading and we're moving toward. Yet putting these all together gives it a powerful punch,
I just want to say one thing. We've gotten some great feedback. We've heard back from a lot of people, and I am so excited because this is really an amazing amount of information that we're sharing. And if you're listening, we love getting the feedback. We've heard great things, and these books are amazing. And like you said, I don't know where the people went that had access to this and the people who were in the space of presenting it, but we're doing it now.
Right.
And so, thanks for the feedback.
And we're having fun doing it.
And we're having fun. We're going to keep on.
We are.
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts. Find New Threads music and their latest album on iTunes, Spotify, and newthreads.us.